topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Are you ready to take a journey? Let's connect with the healers of the world. It's that time. It's time for the Language of Healing on W4WN Radio and Talk 4 TV. Now here's your host, Dr. Nicole Fortin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode on the Language of Healing. We are broadcasting live today on the Women for Women Network, W4WN.com, every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Just get that out of the way before we get into our in-depth conversation today around women's health, women's menstrual cycles, and the inner seasons of the cycle. I'm very excited about today's conversation. How about you, Pipe Man? Are you ready to talk?
Well, people are probably wondering why I'm here, and maybe it's because I have 3 daughters, and I was the one that would make the 2 a.m. runs to the store. So,
yeah, I know
but
we cannot discredit all like the amazing men in our lives, you know, that are also part of this journey alongside women, you know. So
absolutely.
I'm happy to have you here in the conversation today, actually, and I know that you have a lot of insight and maybe some questions as well, feedbacks.
Well, I think definitely questions, because there might be a lot of people like me that have questions that don't understand certain things. And, I think that's what it's about, enlightening people about things that maybe for some reason society wants to deem as taboo, and it's not taboo. It's like real life, it's human life. And I think people need more of an understanding of all types of things to really be able to support and to, really, I would say, act accordingly is the best thing. Because if you don't understand something, no matter what it is, you may not act appropriately because you don't understand it. Just like a foreign language. Like you could say something in a foreign language, but not know what you're saying and insult somebody, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Yeah.
it's important for everybody to be educated, informed, and I would say informed to the fact that I think a lot of people are misinformed.
Yeah, I would say like women included, you know, and there's even someone going through, if we're talking about this topic around the menstrual cycle and women's health and bodies, there's still a lot of questions and a lot of, so that's also miscommunication opportunity number one is if, it's not well understood on an internal perspective, you don't necessarily know what to ask for or how to express that. So there's a lot of learning on both ends. And then, yeah, I mean, we're in the experience together. Just like globally, we share the world with a lot of different cultures and a lot of different people coming from different backgrounds. And part of the language of healing is being able to communicate in another way, and part of that is hearing someone else's story, listening and getting to know that aspect a little bit better will solve a lot of problems.
Well, so I have a
Absolutely.
question in that realm, like you said, including women. So were there questions that you wish you had earlier in life that you got an answer to that later on in life you're like, oh, now I understand?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that that is probably a critical question of my life, was that I would watch other women um in this example, and they would know themselves so well, and I thought, wow, like how is that you know yourself so well that you could tell when your cycle was coming, like that day, there was like a lot of the regularity of, you know um of that, or that intimate connection that women would express, I thought was curious to me as a young person growing up and going through my own, growth and evolution. I really admired that. So that was like a quest of um many rabbit holes. So, but I think that who can answer that question even better or shed some light on that is our guest today. She is Paula Klassen. I'm very excited. Let's get her on the screen and
I
into
was
the
so
conversation.
excited that you did that because that's where I thought the perfect segue was. And I was actually going to do it myself if you didn't. So I'm so happy that you did because listen, we have an expert on the show that can give us some insight that probably none of us know, including Rebel. Rebel probably has lots of questions.
Yeah. Over here for all the questions, comments. Paula, hello. Thanks for
Hello
joining
there.
us today.
Yes,
And
really glad to be here. And maybe I'll just preface it with, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm an expert, but I'm a well-seasoned practitioner.
I like how you put that.
Because I'm
So
continually learning.
what I would like to know personally is what in what we're about to talk about today, what was it that happened in life that caused you to want to really dig in and understand and learn this subject, and make it, a business passion of yours, a life passion of yours? Something I would think something happened in life where the light bulb went off.
As you were speaking before about, I think sometimes about life, the arc of life. And sometimes it is only when you've walked the path for a bit that you can look back and go, oh yeah, that's the moment. And I'm soon to be heading into my 5th decade of life. And the reoccurring pattern for me in my younger years, I actually went to work as a teacher in Rwanda, and I went there just after the genocide, and I really got to bear witness to just the devastation of death, and this pattern of I've since gone and actually have been invited to bear witness to genocide in several different lights. Going up, I live in Alberta in Canada, and there's the tar sands up in the northern part of our province. I bared witness to that. And then just all of this reoccurring pattern of death was so crushing. And then there was this part of me, my womb, that had the spark of life. And I think it's that tension of just being so grief stricken to what I was bearing witness to, and then this incredible connection that I was really anchoring myself in, that like I hold this potential of life inside of me. I also have daughters. I have 2 of them. And I think the resolve to really be embodied in this role of life giver and really taking a stand for life has really come from the determination of, I have 2 daughters, and what kind of legacy do I want to leave for them? Yeah.
I love that. What would you like to know, Nicole, about this journey she's been on to make it to our show today?
well, I just can't help but think about or reflect on, in that moment about this real call for that feminine energy, that life-giving force, and I'm all about the duality. Studying Chinese medicine, everything stems from like the yin and the yang. It's like polarity is what creates that spark of life. It's the polarities that, if everything was just kind of neutral, that I mean, I don't know. Can you imagine a life of just neutrality? So the dynamics, I'm reminded of that when you're sharing that, because death and life and witnessing death or end of cycle, and being inspired by life inspires me. It's something that I really connect with, from even just working with newborns, newborn life, pregnant mothers, like women trying to, or, couples trying to conceive. I see that a lot in my daily practice. And then I also support people at their end stages of life. So, that whole realm, and just being curious about that. So, yeah, what do I want to know more about it? Well, I mean, I'm definitely curious to hear more about the inner seasons, because I'm very also interested in how we cycle through different stages. You call them a season. It could be a phase. It could be a stage. It's like a process. So I don't know if you want to jump in that. Pi
I
Manuel,
want to
you got
jump in for a second, though,
something to
because
say.
you said season. I want to jump in that because before you were coming on the show, I was talking to Nicole about, we used to have a show on this station that was specifically about this subject. And because this person wrote a book, and that book was it's called The Period Party. And it was such a cool book, but in that book, it referenced the seasons as well.
Beautiful. Well, yeah, if you would like, I could just dive in and share a little bit about the four seasons, give a little bit of the flavors as I experience them, and you can ask questions. How does that sound?
Jump right in.
That sounds great. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Yeah, so like even right now, like seasonally where we are, we're at the cusp of the summer solstice. The sun is shining brightly. I know it comes into my window at quarter to 5 in the morning, so I'm up early, and I think in modern culture here we are often enculturated to operate in one season, and it is primarily summer, that summer energy of go, go, go. And, this insistence on efficiency and getting things done quickly and things like that. And the women's cycle just offers us so much wisdom in being able to be with the subtleties and the energetics of ebb and flow. So I'm going to start, with the opposite today. I'm going to start with the inner winter. And, the inner winter is, very, very similar to what I experience here in the Northern Hemisphere is the time of the darkness. And this quality and the energetics of that season is a time of reflection and stillness. And I know for me, cultivating the permission actually to slow down has been an incredible challenge. An incredible challenge when the messaging that I often receive is that, slowing down is somehow a diminishment or an indication that you're not capable and competent. And I know that in this,
sorry to jump in there, but just like the difference between like being lazy and taking the rest, just in our culture, society, we're so go action, or if you don't do that, then you're lazy, or like, that's where maybe like working with women or being a woman is like different, because you really have to honor that process in yourself, right? Like, anyways, sorry to cut you off there.
Well, and that mirroring too, like I know when I had, when the kids were young, when my girls were young, I would get that reflection from them. Mom, like what's happening to you? You are being lazy. And this, and the guilt that I initially felt in hearing that. And then the opportunity that I had in my own family culture to start having these conversations about rest and, and modeling it first of all. And I do remember with my younger daughters at that time, I know that a couple cycles after the lazy comment, I had my other daughters say, "Mom, is this when we need to be gentle with you?"
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of, I mean, this is culture shifting. This is like
Yeah.
radical culture shifting that is happening in these moment to moment, everyday, mundane moments. So yes, that's, you know, the magic, a little snapshot of the magic of the inner winter.
Yeah,
And
and
then
like just knowing that within yourself and being able to express that to your daughters, or even your children, not just necessarily daughters, but it's like, yeah, oh, maybe this is the time we need to be more gentle. Instead of like, oh, is it your time of your month again? Like,
yeah,
a comment like that or
yeah.
something.
And
Yeah.
I think that the other piece I just want to highlight too is that this, you know, the changes or the insights or the actual ripples of this kind of practice, it can happen overnight. In my case, in many of it, it's just been over the course of many cycles. And again, it's about noticing nuance and subtlety, and just simply being able to hold complexity. And the more you practice, the more, you know, more opportunities you get to, you know, be challenged, and then also curate that kind of embodied wisdom.
Mm.
So crossing over into the inner spring, this season for me has been challenging in that, for me, the real potency of the inner spring is, so there's this rising energy, and I am a very creative person, and often in my bleed I will get, you know, I'll get kind of a new idea. And for me, the challenge of my inner spring has been about pacing. That, you know, once I've done the rest, like it's almost like, okay, I've rest now, and then I'm just like, you know, out and wanting to like rush into creating the things that I have inspiration now to create. So the inner spring, you know, I really think about the first green buds. And I mean, I live in lands where there are, you know, extreme weather changes, and so it's not really intelligent for a plant to just burst out and blossom. That, you know, there's an emergence that happens in the plant world that I really I like to pay attention to. And so there's this playfulness, this really playful, innocent, kind of messy energy for me. It's just kind of like that brainstorming and just this opportunity to be with new beginnings. And for me,
Like getting dirty in the mud, you
yeah,
know,
just
playing
like
in the dirt.
exactly.
Like, where do I want to plant this thing? Which one do I want to plant? Yeah.
Yeah, and for me,
Or seed grow.
and the pacing part for me has been about not putting you know, an agenda on the product or the end goal. Not really, you know, not putting too much structure around it. So this time of the season, I love it for yes, just that, just simply taking pride in the play and the newness. Like it's such a beautiful energy to come into every month. Like that I can be new again. I can try something new. I can wobble. I can, you know, there's just so much there's just so much grace that can be offered if there's a willingness to be tender with that new vulnerability.
I love that. Can I just jump in there, because I'm reminded of, you said at the beginning that you have a challenge with this, can have a challenge with this time of season. And in the cycle, spring energy brings like the winds of change, literally, you know, it's like, it can be quite strong energy. It's playful, it's fun, it's invigorating, it's inspirational. It's also a little hard to deal with, you know, hard to manage. You can be blown in many directions. If you're not tender with yourself, you can be really rigid. And what does a tree, it's like a tree being blown in the wind. It will just snap under pressure. You need to be a little bit flexible, and yeah, maybe that playfulness. So interesting. They lines up.
Yeah. And so
Nature.
and the way that the way that I even go with my cycle in terms of days. So day 1 would be my bleed, and so like day 1 to day 6, 7 it would be that inner winter. So it's usually like a 7-day window where.
Okay, so that's winter. So winter would be like day 1. That's like start menstruals period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and depending on
then a
how
week later comes into the spring.
Yes. Yeah. So day 7 to day 14 would be the inner spring. So you can see that there's kind of the arc of a week. And again, women's cycles fluctuate. Some women have longer or shorter cycles, but that's again the beauty of tracking this over time. And now I don't so much go on the chronology of the day. Like I can really feel those subtleties within myself. And it really has a lot to do just with just what I'm inspired to do and my energy level. And I'll feel those somatic subtleties. So I just know I'm shifting gears. And I think there's something, again, so beautiful in having that intimate relationship with yourself, and then how that can spill out into being super generous and compassionate with, being with people exactly where they're at. So
yeah, that's also a quality of the springtime, like the liver season. It's the generosity, it's the abundance, versus the tight, restrained tension.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, something to think about.
So how does information like this help other women that aren't familiar with it and help them to, have a better, more positive experience for themselves?
Well, from my experience, asking women, what day are you on your cycle? It's such a beautiful opening question to really start exploring, this realm of direct experiencing. Because not all women are cycling exactly in the, in the same way at the same time. And I know for me, creating coherence among women is like, whoa, like I'm so passionate about that work. Because again, modern culture kind of has women kind of being distrustful of one another, and that, this kind of this distrust that often is kind of in the hidden background.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the more that I have come together in this way, like cyclically with women, like the feedback we have given one another is this relaxing into, trusting exactly where we are and showing up exactly as we are. And in showing up exactly as we are, I know especially in group situations, what I've experienced is the synergy of like having for example, being the menstruator, and then, having a colleague be ovulating, and again, that functional polarity that isn't battling or isn't in competition with, but it's actually enhancing like a full spectrum intelligence. And I just think that this is so exciting to imagine that, we could come together in that way, and I'm even thinking like with athletics. In one of my working groups, she's a basketball coach, and, so like working like that as a team, and again, not insisting on being one thing for like that the team, there can be that variance, and that again, the synergy creates something that we can't really access individually or acting in individualistic ways. So I offer that to contemplate.
I love that vision. I think that's so inspiring. The functional polarity, you said that. And
Yeah.
speaking of the intelligence of that, like, whoa, wouldn't that be quite the thing? Yeah, like I'm just thinking of, some cultures that really celebrate women, like the red tent, or the period party, or like
Yeah.
these things that are celebratory and, honoring that intelligence of that. But I think that would be, that's a great way to use that to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hi, man, that's a great question.
Well, thanks. And since you mentioned the period party, that was one of the things, is the whole concept of taking girls when it first happens to them and creating a positive, good memorable experience instead of a negative one.
Absolutely. I know in my vision, I do see that too. Like, what would it be like to be welcomed in?
Right?
That just to have a group of initiated women who are so anchored in their own cycle and comfortable in the diversity of a a vibrant, like that, where everybody in that circle is allowed to be fully who they are and as they are, and to be welcomed into that kind of vibrancy. Because I
And
know,
love that wording, welcomed in, though, because that's
yes,
usually, when done the wrong way, it's the exact opposite feeling.
yes, and this is the thing that I have been able to do in my own journey, because there's a lot of grief in how it could have been and how it wasn't for me. I wasn't welcomed in. So when I was 43, I gathered in my aunts and cousins, and I said, could we do this? And I know, like, I created a ceremony, a menarche ceremony, so a first bleed ceremony, and we came together and we did this, and it was awkward and we fumbled, and it was beautiful. It was
Can
absolutely
you tell
beautiful.
us a little bit about this? Because I'm sure people are listening, they're kind of thinking, well, what was that all about, and how would it benefit, and what's great about it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for me it was yeah, like just this longing to remedy somehow what I wasn't given as a young woman. And it wasn't about blaming anybody. It was really from this longing of
Mm-hmm.
wanting and actually seeing evidence of how this almost wound of not being welcomed in was playing out again and again in my life, in terms of just not asking for the things that I wanted, or or holding back in showing myself. So it was this really tender asking, and I feel to this day just so much joy that it's not even so much what happened. I did a giveaway, actually. I gave away many of my special items. I did a giveaway, and I gifted each woman who was present. And then it's not so much even that what was given, the material things, it was what was said.
Sure.
It was the vulnerability, like a very springtime a very springtime event happened in being able to reclaim something that didn't happen. And at that point, I'm closer to menopause than I was to my menarche, and something happened. And it wasn't just for me. That
Right.
healing was for the whole group.
Exactly. And do you think, for people that are not as much in the know of these type of things, do you think that's why, like, how in a workplace, women, their cycles will definitely align with each other. Maybe that's their form, even without controlling it, of welcoming in. Maybe the universe teaching women to welcome each other in.
Yeah, and I think you're speaking so much to how tethered we are to one another. You know, like this, the magic of a female body in terms of just even, I think the way that so like my mother had the eggs for me. That was the birth, the conception of me was in my mother's, you know, fetal womb that was nested in my grandmother's womb. So that's three generations of like really, really powerful connection. And so our bodies, it's in our bodies to support one another. And I just love that we have this invitation in our own cycling to come back home to ourselves and to find our way back to one another. And I think once we do that, and once we learn to come in cohesion together as women, I mean, I think that's where the magic happens with our, you know, the men in our life, our children, that we can really be powerful spokespeople on behalf of life. And I just like to think, even what you were saying in your introduction about having daughters and wanting to understand. So when you understand as a man, then you can be so able to respond in a way that really acts in accordance with life.
Because we really don't understand
right now. We're longing for these patterns that bring us into sync with life.
Yeah. And we really don't understand because we're not living it. We're not walking in your shoes. So, you know, I think it's important for all men to be able to be described as close as possible what it is like, because then maybe a lot of men wouldn't, you know, discount it so much and like poo-poo it if they understood. Because, I mean, let's be honest, I don't know many men that would want to have to go through that, what women have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so maybe they should walk in your shoes for a few.
And I think what I hear too is this longing to understand a little bit about the mystery, because it's just so completely foreign. And I mean, and the numbness bar for men has been amped up so much too. And I think as that numbness bar comes down and the awakening is happening, men want direction on how to be responsive and sensitive in ways that that again are in alignment to life. And we all want to thrive. We all want to come
so true. Yeah. I mean, men, that's like a quality that men, you know, it's like you just give them some direction, or like they're the structure, they're the support. It's like being raised without any boundaries, you know, like you need a boundary to kind of be free in a sense. And I think men provide that for women. But if women are not so sure, then there's like nothing really, it's just a little bit murky waters, you know, like the polarity is not really like a healthy functional polarity, like you say. And just on that note, I would say like this kind of work, the welcoming or the initiation, I think is a big piece of the culture that's missing. And then it's breeds this not healthy relationships amongst women. You know, I think that I've found in my experience in my journey, healing the relationship with women has been like a huge game changer for me. I just thought like, oh, I just get along better with men or something like that, like kind of I would numb out that femininity. But that's really been the ticket to like a lot more health and happiness in my world. And I can see how a ceremony like that would change not only the women involved, but the generations. Like the ripple effect is huge like that. And that's something culturally there's been a lot of significance around that we maybe have lost that a little bit. I don't know. I have many thoughts going on. I don't want to derail you from we would need to finish the rest of the seasons. Is there anything else you want to add before we move into the summer?
No, let's cross over into the summer. Okay. Yeah, so this is actually, I'm just at the tail end. I'm day 21 right now. So I'm kind of at the beginning of my autumn, but I still feel like I'm still coasting on the high of summer. And so this energy is like it's the peak of it's the zenith of the cycle in terms of just the need to express and the desire to be fully authentic. And for me, it's a time of like non-linear possibilities. And again, I'm very creative. So this is when I will bring my out there ideas that have come from, and I'm going to reframe that, because they're not out there. They're so anchored. They're so anchored from this place of deep belonging. And I think sometimes I have in the past, and maybe even still today, because I use the word, I still feel that they're coming out there because they're so big. I'm just like, whoa, like this possibility of being able to swell and become bigger, and this overflow that happens during my inner summer is just something that, again, has been a journey of many cycles of, not daring to, and then being able to source more courage. And now it just happens a lot more fluidly, that overflow. And so there's lots of generosity in terms of being available, for other people at this time. And just having this ease of effortless effort, and just, having that go energy. And it's a good
time to schedule a podcast.
Absolutely. Yes.
Good time for interviews. Good time to ask for what you want.
Exactly. Yeah. And, and I will be very honest that I was looking at my calendar and the timing.
Yeah, no, I know quite a few women that will schedule like important meetings or sales conversations around their ovulation. I mean, that's like kind of the ultimate life hack, to know your cycle and how that relates in the outside world, your inner world with the outside world.
It's the season of that living edge. It's the season of being able to really go for it. And again, in modern culture, we often, this is the gear that is really kind of prioritized. And in many ways, there's this false expectation for it to, we just even look how our economy is based on endless growth and, even learning cycles. We have this, this up kind of momentum that is unsustainable, and there is a place for it in the cycle. It's not about poo-pooing it either. There's a place for it. And I think for me, the challenge has been putting parameters, and like really actually understanding that this is not how it is for my whole cycle, and that I do actually have a limited period of time where I experience this, and then this would cross over into the inner autumn, which, the inner autumn. I'm almost wanting to preface
sounds
it
ominous just saying it. I can feel the heaviness already. Yeah,
because it is the phase in the cycle that is, say PMS, and there's just so much pathology about how this season unfolds. And I mean, I can speak from my own experience too, that I actually had my day 25. So the autumn is like kind of day 20 to day 28, day 21, day 28. So there's this arc of energy is waning, just very much like the autumn. It's like just like the dim lights going on. And I know how it went for me in my earlier days is like that Bugs Bunny cartoon with Roadrunner and Coyote, and like just running, go, 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 and then whoo, like a lot, the crash of, again, not pacing, not actually being real with myself, not being carnally honest with myself, and that kind of that crash and burn. And I had a day in my cycle, my day 25, where over several cycles I was tracking this as a young mother, and I had a name for it. It was lose my shit day. I would lose my shit, and I really feel for my close loved ones, because the lashing out would often happen, would happen towards them. And, or it would be complete migraine or something like that. So I had, again, this feedback that my cycle was giving me. And what I've learned from this practice too is the more that you pay attention, the more, the more things that are like, they're invitations to either really listen to or disregard. And so my day 25s for a while got pretty loud. And I would go into these, what I would call these shame cycles of, asking myself, what's wrong with me? Why am I acting like this? Why am I behaving? There's something wrong with me. And again, the grace of the cycle is that, you get to go through it all again, go into the winter, the rest, the new beginning, and try something different. And then hearing my daughter say, is this the time we need to be gentle with you? Okay, well, maybe this round, I have to be gentle with myself, and then, for me, it really started with blocking that time off in my calendar, like really not doing a lot of external, like my external focus got I really learned to stay close to myself. And again, like being closer to menopause, I haven't gone through that change yet, but now I understand that I'm most likely, like the inner autumn is like, this is the magic of it is once I learned to establish ground here, like this is where I'm like in the like bare bones, truth telling, willing to take a stand for the things that I love the most. Like it's a time of great exposure. Exposure like to my own wounding and all of the, I think for me, it's like really when I'm sourcing the essence of what makes me human. Mm-hmm. And, coming full circle to what I shared at the beginning with genocide, like death, mass death being such a big theme in my early years. Like I really see this in especially here in North America, like we have such a fear of endings and death and change. And in many ways that avoidance is the cause of where we've numbed out and we're not taking care of life, and we are causing a lot of death.
True.
So in really being so present with, for me, the inner autumn is really about this death energy of letting go, of just really being with just the bare bones. It's juicy work, and it really takes a lot of discipline, because I mean the inner summer is the coast. It's like, yeah, effortless effort, wee. And I mean the autumn is a descent, and the descent can be gentle.
Unless you're as far north as you, then that winter is not that gentle.
The plummet.
Yes. Well, we can make our hearth fires.
Yeah. I love you bring up so many great topics, Paula, and I think this is such an important conversation. And a lot of what you're saying really resonates with me and my observation or experience with the seasons and the phases of life. If we look at Chinese medicine is really based on Taoism or Confucianism, who are people that just observed nature and looked at outside nature, our inside nature, and how do the two like that cohesive relationship between them, or not cohesive. It could be like a damaging, destructive relationship as well. Ideally, the Tao means the way, right? It's like how to live in accordance with nature. So the more we tune in as women, or even as men, observing women or interacting with women, to be able to ask like, what season are you in? I would love to see a culture where that was like an appropriate question. I think it should be, I mean, it will open up a lot of conversations. But I can notice what you were saying about like the autumn as a deep reflective time, as opposed to the springtime, which is like that outward expression. So I really believe that taking care of each season is really important in having a supportive and healthy functioning season every time. For example, if in the winter time you're not resting and you're living like your best summer life, you're probably going to be tapping into some serious reserves. And then when summer comes back around, you don't have that bounce or that energy to take advantage of that natural. So that would just be one thing I would comment on and really noticed and loved that you brought to the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think we should maybe you should give out all your socials, website, all your promo stuff and all that. And in regards to what you said about saying what season are you in, well, I was thinking about, and even what day, when you were talking earlier, I'm thinking about, I can see women saying that to other women. I could see sometimes, and correct me if I'm wrong, if a man walked up to a woman and said that, the woman might not react in a positive manner from the way they would from a woman.
And I think healing is relational. And just even putting that awareness in your back pocket, and starting with your daughters, and bridging with the conversation we had, and saying, hey, this, I think there's just always this starting point. There's always a potential for a starting point. And like I said, it change is a cyclical process also. And I think the more that we find our way with like building that intimacy within ourselves, and then the reaching out to other is, I mean, I would invite that question, the inner season question.
Nice. So now, how do people reach out to you to ask you not only about that question, but everything else related to that question?
Well, yes, that question. Yes, I have a Substack account, and I also have my website, and maybe Rebel can put that in the show notes.
And we have it scrolling below us.
Yeah, scrolling.
Beautiful.
And it's also we've included your Substack, which is beautiful and great. I love how you are writing about this and really actively standing for this initiative and supporting women and men in this as well. Okay, find Paula Klassen at substack.com. Can you just spell out your name? Maybe that would be good for our radio listeners.
Paula, Paula, Klassen, Klassen.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for your time and for gracing us with your presence and insights.
Beautiful. Yeah, I just released a menstrual musing today called From Losing It to Owning It, Alchemizing Premenstrual Rage. So I'm glad.
Okay, that's the energy of right now, there's a lot of anger. It's like, what do we do with this? Okay, let's talk about this next time. Tune
Beautiful.
in, The Language of Healing, every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, with myself, Nicole, and the amazing co-host, the Pipe Man, and our very special guest, Paula. Thank you so much. And Rebel, thank you for taking care of everything on the back end. Looking forward to seeing you guys next time.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
This was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Wow, what a show today. And the journey does not stop here. Come travel the world with Nicole every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time as together we become more fluent in the language of healing on W4WN Radio and Talk 4 TV. See you next week.